And if you are on Facebook and Instagram, you can feel free to share this if you want. So if you know somebody that wants to do this via Zoom, just send them the Zoom link and they can attend. But we are streaming live on Facebook on the Jeff Badu Facebook page. And then we're also streaming live on Instagram on the Jeff Badu Instagram page as well. And remember, it is recorded across all platforms. So let me go ahead and start the Zoom recording. And let me go ahead and start the presentation. One quick second. Okay, so we got screen share and then boom. All right, so thank you guys for being a part of this COVID-19 webinar today. We'll be talking about a lot of stuff today. So we titled this COVID-19 Stimulus or Relief Package 2. There was a relief package that was passed last week, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before then. So we titled this, the formal name of the presentation itself is How to Financially Survive COVID-19 with Relief Loans, taking advantage of new legislation and forecasting in this new economy. So this is something that we're basically talking about the stimulus, but we're also talking about how do we forecast things into the future. Some people might have heard that there was an election yesterday in Georgia where Democrats are basically projected, at least last I checked, projected to win, which means that things will get crazy. There will be more stimulus, basically. So by the way, just by introduction of myself, my name is Jeff Badu, and I'm the founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises, LLC. I will give my formal introduction as we go through the slides, just to give you guys some insight. But today we'll get very, this is, if you've listened to one of my presentations, this one will be like one of them. This will be a bit different, right? And that we'll get very deep as to some of the things that you need to know about just how the U.S. government works, about how stimulus works, and just how things have trended, in the past, and what to expect in the future. They say history tends to repeat itself. So basically what I'm telling you here now is history will repeat itself. So there's a stimulus package one that was passed back in March of 2020. And then there was a brand new one that was passed in December of 2020. So stimulus package 2. I predict we'll have at least 2 more stimulus packages passed, especially if the Democrats truly do win the Senate. So here's where we're at. Right? We had the elections on November 3rd. And of course, we had a new president that was elected by the name of Joe Biden, who was a Democrat. And this led to the coronavirus relief and omnibus agreement, which this is where we are basically today. Now, of course, we're past December 31st, so I know the chart is a little skewed a bit. But we do have an inauguration that's coming up, which we don't even know that truly will be there. There's still debate as to who won the election, or at least there's still fight as to who won the election. And then we have the tax deadline, that's April 15th. So, it is tax season coming up, and you of course can use Badu Tax Services to file your tax return. But what you should be doing right now is you should be doing some tax planning for 2021, which, by the way, tomorrow, I believe from 12 p.m. from 12 to 1, we'll be doing a webinar via the same link, via the same platform, on the Joe Biden tax plan, which will most likely pass if the Democrats truly do win the Senate. If the Democrats win the Senate, then that means the tax plan of Joe Biden, everything we present tomorrow, will come into fruition, meaning that tax rates will go up. So there's a lot of things we really have to watch out for. And the reason why we're doing webinars like this, we want you to know in advance. We don't want you to get shocked. So after today and tomorrow, nobody should be shocked as to what I'm telling you. All right, it's not guaranteed, but there's over 90% chance that everything I'm telling you today will happen in the future. And I don't have a crystal ball. I'm simply using historical information to make decisions in the future. Then there's an extension on October 15th that you can take advantage of for your taxes if needed. I do recommend you get your taxes done early as soon as possible, especially as we have stimulus checks, and things like that going. And then after that, there will be December 31st this year where we need to plan for 2022. And we could actually start doing some of that 2022 planning now, because we know if the Democrats win the Senate, the tax plan will be passed by Joe Biden, which means tax rates will go up in the future. Remember, the full details on his tax plan will be released tomorrow during our webinar at noon tomorrow, Central. So here's a framework for key things that will happen over the next 3, 6, 9, 12, or even 24 or more months. For those that may not know, we are in a pandemic known as COVID-19. COVID-19 was a virus that basically has spread so far that it's killing, it spread across the millions and millions of people. And we're still, in 2021, we're still in a global pandemic. My personal thought, at first when it happened, I thought it was going to be here just for 3 months, right? Just a 3-month thing, we'll be back to normal. Then 6 months came by, then 9 months. And now almost a full 12 months. Actually, the pandemic, the actual virus originated, I believe it was November of 2019. So it's been a virus for a while. It's just that it was a pandemic around March or so of 2020. Who knows when this thing is going to end? I was talking to my beautiful wife, Yvonne, today earlier, and she said, yeah, this thing might not ever really ever end, to be honest. But I do think there will be an end date to the pandemic itself. Of course, the virus, nobody knows. So that's the truth. We don't know how long this crisis will last. That's the reality of it. Who knows? And that's a big part of what makes it so difficult. It's hard to plan events. It's hard to plan anything right now. But what you can do is you can use information you know now to make informed decisions for the future. The uncertainty of knowing when it will end is just impossible. But while we don't know when, we can use historical information to predict future results. Meaning that there's things, for example, such as a V-shaped recovery, and that's where the economy will bounce back quickly, right? We actually saw that in 2020. The stock market took a hit, and then all of a sudden, boom, it rose back up. It was around April. It took a big hit, and then boom, it rose back up. Now the stock market is at its absolute peak, and it's probably going to go higher from here as we get more stimulus. And then you have a U-shaped recession where the economy will come back, but it will take time. And that's pretty much what we're in now. L-shaped depression, where we are headed for a long-term depression. I don't think that will happen as the government keeps pushing more stimulus. By the way, the more stimulus they push out, the more taxes you pay. However, today, the purpose of today is to say, let's go out and get that stimulus money, right? Because tax rates will go up, and stimulus will be here regardless of whether they go up or not. The goal today here is let's get you the money. Then we have a K-shaped recovery, and that's where we have some winners and some losers, right? We don't know what's going to happen, but we can use information we know today to predict certain patterns of what we think is going to happen. Here's 2 things for sure. If the Democrats win the Senate, there will be more stimulus, and there will be tax hikes. Those 2 things are guaranteed. Now, let's assume really quick that things die down, right? And the vaccine makes a big difference. And daily cases start going down, right? That may take 1 to 3 months. But then things continue to get worse in the coming weeks. And I've heard news that the worst of the pandemic, Bill Gates even said this. He said the worst of the pandemic, and we haven't even seen it yet. Daily cases keep going up and going up. I know there's vaccines out, but people aren't getting them. So just imagine if we go 18 plus months in this pandemic, more on top of what we've already gone through, which is crazy, right? Insane. Most of us don't think it would go, or I didn't think personally, I didn't think it would go on for this long. And we're not out yet. That's the reality of it. Now, what would happen to you if this went on for a month? Like, just think about it for a second. What would happen to your business if this pandemic basically went on for a whole nother month? Just think about it. What about 4 to 5 months? How is it going to impact your business? And holy cow, what about 12 to 18 months? That's quite insane. The truth is, nobody on this planet knows how long the pandemic will be. Like, so many people are out there saying, Bill Gates is saying January of 2022, right? And all right, so it looks like we got somebody who might be writing on a PowerPoint. So I guess let me take a break really quick. Welcome to the webinar, talking about stimulus program for individuals and businesses. Looks like we might have a slight issue. Let me go ahead and stop sharing the screen really quick. Okay. All right, so let me just go ahead and get that going. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. Not sure what happened there. So we have our Zoom platform that's streaming, and then we also have our Facebook platform that's streaming, as well as our Instagram. And today we're talking about the stimulus package, you know, the new package that came out for 2020 and 2021. And ultimately, we're going to, you know, we're basically just talking about some of the history, some of the stuff that's been going on. So let me go ahead and resume the presentation there. So we got that. Okay, here we go. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me get this thing playing. Okay. So let's go back here. All right. So yeah, the truth is we really don't know what's going to happen, right? But most thought this would be over by now. But it looks like COVID will be a part of our lives for at least the first part of 2021. And let's be realistic, it's probably going to be for all of 2021. I mean, that's something I think we can predict with the little amount of people that have taken a vaccine, with everything that's going on. It's quite crazy. By the way, what should you do for yourself to be prepared if it's 1 month or 18 months? There's something we can do, right? And here's what we tell people. Do whatever you think you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe. First and foremost, safety first. Whether that's from the virus and from the people in society. And then also do everything that's in your power to save your business. Getting creative, pivoting to create new revenue, getting relief loans, taking advantage of legislation, and forecasting cash to survive. These are all some of the things that we need to be thinking about right now for your business. How do we create new revenue streams? How do we get relief loans, which is a big part of what we're talking about today? And then also taking advantage of legislation and then forecasting, you know, cash in order to survive. Here's the truth. Disasters have come year after year, right? We've seen it happen all the time. I mean, not necessarily all the time, but we see it happen every 10, 15 years or so, and sometimes even sooner than that. And most people just sit on the sidelines and let the world happen to them. What happened with all the businesses, over 2 million plus businesses that have gone out of business since the pandemic? Unfortunately, right, some of them truly went out of business because they just couldn't survive. But most, I would say, if we looked at the demographic, we might be able to see that they might have been sitting on the sidelines and not really been proactive, not really been watching out for the stimulus and everything like that. Some people, everybody was shocked, but some people say, you know what? I just heard about this new package. Let me at least attend a webinar. Let me at least attend, let me at least do something to get me ahead. And right now, we're helping anyone that's affected by COVID-19, right, navigate this confusing time. And that's everyone, by the way. Everybody that's listening today, I believe, is affected by COVID-19. So there's not anybody on this planet that I found that hasn't been impacted. Now, I didn't say negative impact. I just said impacted, period. And this reminds me of the BP oil spill. Here's what happened for those that don't know about the BP oil spill. BP oil spill hit, and there was a lot of uncertainty for business owners. It's crazy. But there was also a massive windfall of loans and even cash payments, direct cash payments that were sent to people, similar to what we're going through right now. The total estimated settlement was $53.8 billion. That was BP's estimated settlement. And COVID-19 is already 50 times that with the latest bill that was just passed. 50 times. And just like the BP oil spill, we need to make sure that we submit a flawless loan application, right? And take advantage of all the tax credits. So there's a lot of tax credits, tax incentives that came out, deferrals, and also managing our cash flow to get through this crisis. So that's something that we can do now. So remember that comment about sitting on the sidelines? Well, we can get back in the game by actually taking advantage of all the things that passed in the stimulus. Now, here's a bit about myself. Let me just get into my spiel a bit. So as a reintroduction, my name is Jeff Badu. I'm a licensed certified public accountant. I graduated from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign with my bachelor's and master's degree. And ultimately, I'm a parallel entrepreneur and a wealth multiplier. I'm the founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises, LLC, which is a multinational conglomerate in the finance industry. And what we do is we really provide a suite of financial services in order to, basically in order to help people maximize their financial security. Our number one company is our tax firm, which is Badu Tax Services, which is the company that's hosting the webinar today. And what we do is we do a suite of tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses across all 50 states in the U.S. We also have clients in about 50 countries. 15 countries at the moment. So 50 states in the U.S. and about 15 countries at the moment. We're always looking to expand and grow. We're very fortunate to have 36 team members, some of which are with us today in our webinar. And then I'm also the CEO of Badu Investments, LLC, which is our real estate investment company. That's where we invest in multifamily rental properties in order to stabilize those properties. And of course, that's a big part of the stimulus package was rental relief, which we won't really talk about today, but that is something that was included in the stimulus package. So a lot of our tenants are low income. So what we do is we gather information, we send it in a packet to all of our tenants. We say, hey, if you're having trouble, if you're having trouble making ends meet, you can apply, we'll assist you, we'll give you everything you need, just let us know, and we'll walk you through. To this day, out of the 57 tenants we do have, there's only 2 that are currently late on payments. So that's just to give you an idea of how when you're helping others, they tend to help you too, right? And something about me is I'm very passionate about financial literacy, and that's part of the reason why we're delivering this presentation today. And I like to say that my purpose in life is to inspire and support the super hungry to take hold of infinite resources in order to create an abundant lifestyle. Once again, my purpose is to inspire and support the super hungry, those who are out looking for stimulus money, to take hold of infinite resources, aka the stimulus package, in order to create an abundant lifestyle, right? So we're not about scarcity or anything like that. We're all about abundance. We're all about how do we find more and then make more and get more and even more after that. So that's really that's a bit about my background and how, part of basically why is it that we're delivering this presentation today. Somebody asked a question, can the link be dropped for what was sent to the tenants? So unfortunately, that is private information. That is only for our investment company, right? So we don't, unfortunately, that is one thing. It's very, very rare that we don't share something, but it is the one thing we only keep in-house within our investment company. But I can, with the stimulus package that was passed, there are rental relief programs in there. And basically with that, there's links, for example, CHA, IHDA, the Illinois Housing Department, if you're in the state of Illinois. You can check on those websites. They have tons and tons of information. For example, they had the $5,000 grant that was given to each tenant, and I would say some of our tenants did actually apply for it and got the grant, and so they were able to subsidize their rent that way. The Salvation Army also received some money. We had some tenants apply through there as well. So there's so many. Think about, just go to your local real estate group or real estate government authority or nonprofit, and I guarantee you they have access to the money in some way, shape, or form. So here's what we're going to cover today. You probably wonder, man, probably should have started with this one. But no, I think it was good to understand where we've been, right? What we've been through before 2021. And now here's where we are in 2021. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, aka the 7A. By the way, don't confuse that with a separate 7A loan on top of the PPP that the SBA offers. But this one is a forgivable loan, and that's a big part of this PPP component. And this is for first-time borrowers and second-time borrowers. And it's typically for the hardest hit businesses. Economic injury disaster loans, EIDL, we'll talk about the reintroduction of the $10,000 grant that you may be able to qualify for. Then we'll talk about the employee retention credit. That's one of the biggest ones that a lot of people don't know about, but it is out there. It's huge. Employer payroll tax deferment, COVID cash flow management. So we do offer cash flow management for our clients. And then tomorrow, that's where we'll hit big on the Biden tax planning. And then also number 7, we'll talk about additional relief. Now let's talk about the Paycheck Protection Program really quick. So this is formerly known as a PPP, or for short PPP, and then PPP2. Maximum loan amount in round 2 is now $2 million. Used to be $10 million, now it's $2 million. And the loan amount is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll, right? And if your accommodations, aka hotels, restaurants, food services, then there's 3.5 times your average total monthly payroll. We'll talk about that in a second. Then we have, let's see here, we also have first-time borrowers. Right, so one thing to note, and by the way, if you're just joining us today, first of all, welcome to the call. And we do ask that you mute yourself when you're not speaking. And we do promise that at the end, we will have some Q&A, about 10 minutes at least of Q&A. And ultimately, once that's done, you can also reach out to us after the fact as well with that. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, you just type your question in the chat box and we'll be sure to get to it. So with the new stimulus package, it actually reintroduced the first round of PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. For those that may have not gotten it, may have not been able to apply it, you can actually reapply and you can get it. So the first round and the second round now. So with first-time borrowers, you have to have 500 or fewer employees. Have to be this is key. Sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals do qualify. Any business that averages less than 500 employees per physical location that has an NAICS code starting with 72, aka hotels and restaurants, are 3.5 times monthly payroll. Nonprofits, including churches, also do qualify. All loans are subject to review by the SBA. So let's just say, do not lie on your application, right? Get it clean, get it right. They can't audit you. And some people have gone to jail for this, actually. Some well-known celebrities have actually gone to jail because of PPP loan fraud. So we don't want that for anybody today. We don't want to do anything illegal. This is all within the books. It has a 1% interest rate for small businesses. If there's no forgiveness, then payments are deferred for up to 10 months after the covered period. And then you are still subject to an audit if you have a loan under $150,000. And basically, it allows you to get more qualifying expenses such as software, damaged property, covered supplier costs, worker protection expenses. And the loan maturity, if you took it out before June 5th, it's 2 years. And then if it's after June 5th, it's 5 years. So you can still apply for PPP1 the moment they release the applications. And then also there's a PPP2, a second round of PPP. And this is for the hardest hit borrowers, meaning that at least you have to have at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts, right? So if you have a 25% reduction in gross receipts in the first, second, or third quarter of 2020 compared to 2019, then you're ultimately going to be able to qualify. So let me give you an example. in quarter one of 2019, your revenue was 10,000, right? You had a good quarter because the pandemic wasn't really a pandemic in Q1 of 2019. But in 2020, you took a hit. You went down to 5,000. Well, now you qualify, right? You qualify for the second round, which makes you eligible for PPP2. Now, it also provides applicable timelines for businesses that were not in operation, right, in Q1, Q2, and Q3 and Q4 of 2019. So it actually allows you, even if you were in business, even if you were not in business in 2019, there are ways to still qualify for this loan. For those joining, welcome to the call. First of all, we do please ask that you mute your mics if you're not speaking, just because of the background noise and everything like that. We will have a formal 10-minute Q&A at the end, so please bear with me as I do this presentation. But basically, applications submitted on or after January 1st, 2021 are eligible to use gross receipts from the fourth quarter of 2020. So it's a bit tricky, but basically you can either use 2019, right? Basically you can use the 2020 numbers or 2019. You just have to compare them quarter by quarter. So what I would do if I were you, I would have your 2019 quarterly breakout of income, right? And you need this for your taxes, by the way. Then I would have your 2020 quarterly breakdown of your income, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Of course, there's 3 months in each quarter. You got it broken out. And then you see if you qualify. Most people do qualify. Most businesses do qualify. You just have to have your numbers in order. And they will ask you, they might ask you for verification of this information. So you can't just magically say, oh yeah, I predict that I haven't reconciled my books for 2020, but I predict that I lost, 25% of revenue for Q2 of 2020 compared to Q2 of 2019. Yeah, you can't do that. You do need real numbers to be laid out on paper in your QuickBooks. That's what we typically recommend. So this does require some work on your end. And part of what we do is we at least help guide you as to how to compile that. We do strongly recommend you use QuickBooks. Then we can easily do a quarterly report and then see what the quarterly comparisons are. If you had any quarter where you had a 25% or greater reduction, the phone is really blowing up today. But if you had a 25% or more reduction in revenue or gross receipts, not including loans or anything like that, then you do qualify. And here's the sweet thing. You can use so they say it's 2.5 times average monthly payroll. What does that mean? It means that if you have an S Corp or C Corp, you do have to run W-2 payroll. This is something that stings a lot of business owners. It's actually required to run W-2 payroll if you're an S Corp or C Corporation. So if you don't qualify for PPP, unfortunately. You do not qualify for PPP. But if you do, you take your payroll, all of your W-2 payroll, you divide it by 12, multiply it by 2.5. Now you can do either 2019 payroll or 2020's payroll. So you can actually do either or. For the first round, you can only do 2019's payroll. But for the second round, you can do either 2019's payroll or 2020. If you're self-employed, similar concept, except for you use your net profit of your Schedule C. So whatever your Schedule C turns out to be of net profit, you can take the greater of 2019 or 2020. You take the net profit number, which is typically, I believe, on line 31 of the Schedule C, and you divide that by 12 and you multiply it by 2.5, right? So it's something very important to keep in mind that for the second round, you can use either 2020 or 2019, whichever is most beneficial. But to determine the 25%, though, you ultimately have to compare and contrast 2019 compared to 2020. It's a bit confusing, and this is where we step in to help you navigate through all of that. You do have to have 300 employees or fewer. And then you have to have used or plan to use the first PPP, which, that's an easy one, right? If you're self-employed, you just pay yourself the money. Or if you're a single member S Corp, you just pay yourself the money. That's easy. You use the money. And it may be a tiered system where certain loan amounts will only require self-certification. So easy peasy. But all documents are subject to review by the SBA. The SBA does have the right to review everything. So that's the PPP. We ran an analysis today of a client who, for example, let's just say, unfortunately, please bear with me. I don't have my calculator that's turned on here. It's going to turn on in a second. I did want to run some quick numbers, but we'll probably save that for the end or maybe in our Q&A segment, just to show you some examples. But you're talking about a lot of money that could be had basically just by having your paperwork clean. Applications have not officially opened yet, but they might open, for example, this Friday or early next week. And we are starting to assist clients. We are starting to take on clients for that too, by the way. So if you want to sign up, just let me know. You can go to BaduTaxServices.com, schedule an appointment, or send us an email saying, hey, I'm interested, and then we'll get you going with the next steps. Then talk about the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL. Right? This is a loan, but there's a grant to it. Maximum loan amount is $2 million. And loan amount is basically equal to 6 months of working capital, right? So basically whatever your working capital is, you take that, multiply that by 6. And really, here's where you qualify. So this one is tricky. In the second round, or let me just talk about the qualifications for a second. It extends the SBA EIDL Advance Grant for small businesses in low-income communities. Now, that's a very, very broad definition. So it doesn't necessarily, I don't think they use the best definition when they define what low-income truly means, right? And they have certain statistics and demographics based on that. But we do actually, in our firm, we do have a tool that we can use to pull your business address to see whether you qualify or not. So that is a service that we do offer. But it also creates a process for existing EIDL advance guarantees that, so if you receive less than $10,000 of the EIDL grant or advance that came in the first round, then you can actually reapply and get your full $10,000 even if you only have 1 employee or 2 employees. So it basically is guaranteeing you $10,000 in a grant as long as you submit certain paperwork. PPP borrowers don't have to deduct the EIDL advance anymore. So that's another huge thing. You used to, in order to qualify for the PPP, let's say you got a PPP loan of $10,000 and you got an EIDL grant of $2,000. Well, you are only eligible for $8,000 for forgiveness, $10,000 minus $2,000. Now you don't even have to deduct that. So they've made it so sweet that you don't even have to count the advance as part of your PPP, which I believe that was their initial intention, but SBA somehow, some way screwed it up and said, oh yeah, we got to subtract it. It can be used for fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills affected by the disaster. So it does reintroduce the 10K EIDL grant. So if you did not receive 10K and you either applied for the EIDL or you did not apply, you can still get it. You just have to go through the right process. And that's where we come in. There's a 3.75% interest rate for small businesses, and then 2.75% for private nonprofits. And that's if you take the loan. So the EIDL is a loan that you can get up to $2 million, right? But there's also an advance or a grant of $10,000 depending on if you qualify or not, if you fall within a quote unquote low income community. It's a very broad definition, so I don't think anybody should assume whether or not they're in a low income community unless you run the numbers or you look up online to see like what your median household income for your, basically for your community is. But there's no payments on the EIDL loans for 1 year from the date of the note, and it has a 30-year term. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. This is huge. And you don't have to include any of these 3 programs here. You don't have to include any of that in your gross taxable income or gross receipts. Expenses are tax deductible even if the loan is forgiven. That was a change. And then all of this we're talking about here, except for the EIDL loan, not the grant, all of this we're talking about is eligible for forgiveness, meaning you don't have to pay it back. It's fully forgiven. The EIDL grant is a grant that you definitely don't have to pay back. But the loan itself is not forgiven, at least not yet. I do expect them to actually forgive it. Somebody asked a question or made a comment. Definitely need to schedule an appointment to see if my business qualifies for the EIDL. Yeah, definitely. Let's get something on the books really quick. Now, here's another thing that a lot of people don't know. There's an employee retention credit, and this is only for those who basically run a payroll, a W-2 payroll. But there's certain credits that do apply for sole proprietors as well. So you're eligible for a credit of up to 50%, right, for 2020, and then 70% of 2021 of qualified employee wages. So if you hire people or you hire yourself, then you could get a credit of up to 50% of what you've paid the person, and then 70% of what you've paid the person. We're talking about full wages, by the way. If you pay somebody $10,000 in a given quarter, right, or a given year, you can get a credit of $5,000. That's huge. I mean, that's huge. We're talking about a tax credit that you can get just by paying somebody because you were able to during the pandemic. Up to $10,000 in wages per employee per year, right? So the maximum wages is $10,000. So they cap you at $10,000. So the maximum for 2020 is $5,000 per employee. And then for 2021, it's per quarter. My goodness. 70% of $10,000, so $7,000 per quarter. So you're talking about 40. Basically, if you're talking about, so let's just do the math really quick. So $10,000 times 70% per quarter, right? That's $7,000. And basically, if we take that number multiplied by 4, you're talking about $28,000 worth as a tax credit that's handed to your employer. Of course, the employer is meant to pay you, or they were paying you. In order for them to get the credit, they have been paying you. And the purpose here is to make sure they retain you as an employee. It is available for sole proprietors, but I think this one is a bit skewed. You do have to have payroll, W-2 payroll, and also for small businesses with less than 500 employees. And you can now accept PPP as well, but you basically cannot count PPP wages towards this credit. So what it might be the case is that you might need to compare the PPP loan to see if it makes sense to get that versus this credit here. Ultimately, I think the PPP does overshadow this, but in some cases it might not. It must be fully or partially closed, so your business must have, to qualify, the business had to be partially or fully closed, or you had a 50% revenue drop, quarterly revenue drop in 2020, compared to 2019, and then for 2021, there only needs to be a 20% drop. So that one is very complicated. It takes time to really digest it, but just know that there is a credit, a tax credit for retaining employees. And then there's also the employer payment tax deferment. And that's basically, it allows you to defer a portion of Social Security taxes. And you can be eligible even if you are a PPP borrower regardless of forgiveness. But you do have to start repaying the money by start of January 1st, 2022. And then there's some additional ones. The additional 7A loan through the SBA, the 504, microloans, state and local grants, private grants, banks and other financial institutions, non-bank lenders, shuttered venue operators. So if you're an entertainer or if you're a live performer, right, there's additional grants if your revenue went down by 40% in comparison to 2019. And then here's a beauty for all my business owners out there in restaurants too. You get 100% meals deduction if you eat at a restaurant or if you order from a restaurant. So 100% meals deduction. That's huge. No longer the 50% meals and entertainment. It's a full 100% meals deduction. That's going to be a big tax planning item for our firm, for sure. There's some additional things that we can help you with. We do some COVID-19 forecasting and cash flow. So we can do a cash flow analysis, runaway analysis, cash management, estimated tax payments, forecasting, budgeting, debt restructuring, and determination if you'll need future funding. So this is all part of our COVID-19 forecasting, because we do need to do this stuff or we might end up out of business if we don't properly allocate our cash. Cash is huge right now. I usually say cash is not king. I think cash flow is king, but in this case, cash is king. Then we also have the Biden tax plan, which, of course, tomorrow we'll be talking deeply about that. And that's from 12 to 1 p.m. Central. We'll be talking about Joe Biden's tax plan. And if the Democrats do win the Senate, and I haven't checked the news since this morning, so it might actually be true that they won, then it's going to get crazy, let's just say. I mean, people will be pulling their hair out, and it's going to get pretty insane. There will be more stimulus, but on the downside, there's higher taxes too. And with that, we talk about deductions, legal entity design, retirement, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, FFCRA, CARES Act, Coronabus, or this COVID-19 relief package here. And then insurance and asset protection, that's something we help you out with. Legal loopholes, niche-specific strategies, advanced strategies, international, asset and gift freeze, tax advantage wealth management. We do actually help out with that, setting up trusts and things of that nature. Exit and capital gains, which will be huge for those selling stuff. If you're selling a business, or if you are basically planning to sell a stock or real estate, then you do definitely need to pay attention to this one, because Joe Biden plans to get rid of long-term capital gains rates. That's a hint to what we'll be presenting tomorrow. Somebody asked the question, do you recommend creating an LLC in home state or other state? I would say yes, you should create it in your home state unless it's an online business. If it's an online business or you do things virtually, then please try to create it in a state like Nevada that has no state income taxes. So that is a tax planning strategy that you can use in order to reduce your state income taxes. For example, in the state of Illinois, my state, we have a 5% tax rate, right? Which sucks. So if we relocate to, let's say, Texas or, Nevada, we have a 0% income tax rate. So we just saved 5% just by relocating our business. So this is, if you're an online business, if you're somebody who is virtual, then try to find a way to relocate your business to another state, because tax rates will go up. We'll, of course, cover that deeply tomorrow. Today is more about stimulus. All right, so let's just get a little deeper into the PPP, the 7A, just a bit more details. You can apply for up to $2 million, right, as a loan. If you use a loan for payroll, rent, utilities, or mortgage interest, you do not have to pay it back, right? And it's not including your income, and you get to deduct the expenses. I mean, what kind of world do we live in where you can do that? I pretty much thought they were just ripping up the tax code and just saying, hey, you guys just do whatever now. And yes, you did read that correctly. There's a new category of expenses where you would be able to, be eligible for forgiveness, including covered operational expenditures, covered property damage costs, supplier costs, and worker protection expenditures. So if somebody damages your property, then you could get that covered as part of the PPP forgiveness. I mean, that's huge. So you can get a $2 million loan if you just want it. There is a calculation based on the size of your business and your current payroll, right? So in order to get the loan, you're likely going to need your payroll information up to date. Additionally, you'll need to go through some underwriting where, basically we're understanding more each day. And then you also, in order to get the loan forgiven, in many circumstances, you have to prepare an accounting package showing how you basically disperse the funds in accordance with the loan terms. Very important, because if you don't do it right, you'll have to pay back tens, hundreds, and some people millions of dollars back. And these funds do run out, so it's on a first come, first serve. So basically, what this slide is pretty much sharing that. And these are some of the things that are required to get some of these loans. And this is what we help you navigate through. Articles of organization, bylaws, driver's license, business plan, in some cases, tax transcripts, monthly sales figures, payroll. There's a lot, right? There's a whole lot. And here are some of the biggest things in getting loans. Like, for example, some people have trouble putting together their documents. And then ultimately, banks sometimes don't answer or aren't responsive. They're not really helping you come up with some of this stuff. And that's where we come in. You know, so these are some of the things that we help you do. We help you complete an accurate applications. You know, we basically help to get you the best lending options. We do apply within hours of the banks basically opening up or any changes. And then we help you determine how much you need and how much you can qualify for. And then we also help you determine how to spend it. And then here's some more stuff about grants. There were some grants if you're in Illinois or Chicago. There's a Chicago Small Business Resilience Fund. So this is just an example. So for us, we're usually staying on top of this stuff pretty, you know, a pretty decent amount. And really with that, that's pretty much the presentation. So let me go ahead and stop sharing now. I know we probably have a few questions. First question, Brittany asked, what is the 7A loan? 7A option or loan is basically a loan that the SBA offers. It's very similar to the PPP, or I'm sorry, even to the EIDL, where it's basically, to my knowledge, it's sometimes some people have gotten it for 15 years, some people have gotten it for longer. It's an extra loan that the SBA can give you if you've been in business typically for at least 2 years. So it does have more strict terms, more strict requirements. And we can talk about that more after the fact. But it's not part of the stimulus package or anything like that. It's basically, or at least not part of the second package, it's an additional loan that you can ultimately get if your business needs it, or if your business even wants it, you can actually get it. 7A has been around for a very, very long time. Any other questions? This is our opportunity to ask any questions. We got about 7 minutes left. And thank you all for those that were able to tune in and listen, by the way, too. Any questions at this time? What is the deadline for the application? It's as soon as possible. There is no deadline. It's whenever the funds run out, so I wouldn't even be thinking about, oh, when is the deadline or when is the last? No, I would be thinking about when is the first day to apply. The first day to apply will probably be next Monday. And remember, we are accepting clients. We already have a few clients that have already signed up, meaning they'll be first in line. We have a bank that we work with. We have direct access to their systems and their portals. And in the first round, we got clients approved in as little as 2 hours, right? And as long as 2 business days. And you might have heard, if you're applying through like a Chase or Bank of America, it might have took them weeks and weeks and weeks to get you your money. But in this case, we're able to get you, we have an online bank that we work with, and they're able to get you the money within just a few potential hours or a few days, essentially. And we'll help guide you with the documents that you need, what you need to submit, and all that fun stuff. All right, let's see here. Okay, so somebody asked a question. Can you speak more towards sole proprietor and what is needed in the new PPP? Yeah, basically you need to have, first of all, you need to have been generating a profit in your business, which sounds crazy, but either for 2019 or 2020, you have to show a profit on your Schedule C line 31. So let me just see if I can quickly pull up a Schedule C. So basically on the Schedule C on line 31, there's a line that's called net profit. So with the net profit, you essentially take that number, and let's just do some math really quick. Let's say in 2019, you grossed, you made $100,000, but you spent $25,000. So your net profit is $75,000. You take that number, you divide it by 12, and you multiply it by 2.5. So you're eligible for $15,625 in a fully forgivable loan. And then we multiply that by 2 because it's PPP1 and PPP2. And now let's say that for 2020, now there is a requirement to get the second one though. Your gross receipts had to have dropped by at least 25% when you compare it from a quarterly basis. So let's say that in your 100,000, you made that over, let's say you made 25,000 in Q1 of 2019, 25 in Q1 of 2020, 25 in Q2 of 2019, 25 in Q3 of 19, 25 in Q4 of 19. As long as in one given quarter, your gross receipts dropped by 25%. Or in other words, it was 18,750 in any one of those quarters in 2020, right? 18,750. Let's say in Q2 of 2020, you made 15,000 as a, in gross receipts. Then you qualify. That means you now qualify for the loan using 2019, which is a higher figure. Most people 2019 will be higher. So they're going to use their 2019, Schedule C or tax return. And that's what we submit to the banks. And we also get it forgiven automatically too. So it can be quite easy. This is free money it's out there. A lot of the work is on our end, right? Because we have this knowledge embedded here and we have it all written down too. So that's where our value comes in, and that we can actually assist you in applying for these applications. We only got about 3 more minutes here, so let me just quickly ask a question. How can we sign up to meet with you to see if we're eligible? Go to badutaxservices.com. There you go. Glad you put that in there, William. And then what's the minimum they should have made online? 31. Well, it can't be anything less than basically $1, right? You can't be negative. So for those that love to write things off and all that, this is not for you. You gotta have income. You gotta have profit, right? So if you're aggressive, write off. So you might want to say, hey, you know what, 2020, let's not get so aggressive with the write-offs. Or maybe 2019, let's maybe go back and consider, if we filed, maybe some ways that we can reduce some expenses. So this is where we come in handy, where we help you make that determination. So yeah, it's not as simple as, you submit an application through a bank, and then they check it off and they approve you. It takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of analysis. So you do have to show a profit on your line 31 of the Schedule C. Profit means anything over $1, right? So you do need profit for the PPP, and for EIDL, there's no such requirement. It's just you have to be in a low-income community, right? So with that, and yes, we have gotten people 10K in PPP. We have gotten folks 10K in the EIDL grant in the first round, and now we're also going to be able to get them in the second round. Not on top of the 10,000 they got initially. It's just if you didn't get it the first time, you have the opportunity to get it the second time. So with that, let's just take maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Let's see here. Okay. So we got some comments there. And then I heard BBB is good to get money for business. Not quite sure about that one. Are you really from Uptown? Yes. That's where I went to school. And then I read about how you want, let me see. All right, so we got that. Any stock recommendations to buy? I mean, tech stocks are pretty good. Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, that's huge. Tech stocks, think about it. We're in a pandemic. Everybody needs technology. Where should you put your money? Probably in technology, unless you know where to make more money, aka real estate. So with that being said, it looks like that was the last question. Actually, let me tell you one more question. Question is, how can an online business show they are in low income area for the second round? That is a great question. So let me just quickly, define what that means. Like it is a pretty confusing concept. I would say let's definitely talk after this call to really get down the definition of what it truly means to be in a low income. But essentially, right? Oh yeah, and by the way, with the EIDL, you do have to prove that you had a 30% revenue drop for 2020 compared to 2019. Same sort of quarterly figure. But as far as, I do want to answer this bonus question, because I do think that's a very important thing about the whole, low income community. And there's various definitions out there. It's just that they put it in a way that's a bit confusing. So let me read the formal codification. The term low income community means any population census tract if the poverty rate for such tract is at least 20%. So you have to have at least 20% poverty rate in your area, or basically where the median family income for such tract does not exceed 80% of the statewide median family income. That was a mouthful. Basically, poverty rate 20% or median household income is no more than 80% of the state. So with that being said, thank you guys for being a part of this webinar today. Hopefully you gained some knowledge, some information. Feel free to reach out. Visit badutaxservices.com for any information about, stimulus or anything like that. Tax season is here. We are helping you file your taxes. All right, reach out. We, of course, will be busy this year, but we don't ever use busyness as an excuse for anything. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining. Hope you guys learned something, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the time. Thank you guys.